Hello, hello everybody. Welcome in. How are you all? Hello, Patty and Linda and Madeline and Kyra. How are you? Happy Wednesday. Hi. It seems like it's been a while. It's been a couple weeks, right? So it's weird kind of doing this every other week, but I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad that you are here. I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the quilt behind me, my Twist and Shout quilt. So if you know anybody who might be interested in learning how to paper piece the block, hit that share button and let's get them to join on in on the tutorial. Hi, Kathy. How are you? Welcome in. Say hello if you're here. Give a thumbs up. So we can all say hello. Yes, Kyra, it's a nice quilt. And as per usual, at the end of my Watch Me Wednesday, I will be taking questions. So you can definitely put your questions there. Oh, thank you for the hearts. Excuse me. I will put your questions right there. Hi, Betsy from rainy Massachusetts. It is a nice sunny day here in Arizona, but the wind is picking up. So it's like 88 degrees and super sunny, so but very windy right now. So anyway, but it's not raining, which is good. Anyway, so as I was saying, if you have questions, you want to hold it to the end. I will answer your questions. You type them in the comments. I'll put them up on screen just like I did Betsy's hello. And then we will go in with a question and answer period. I'm going to show you, who said it's snowing? Deb says it's snowing where she is. Oh my goodness. It's April. It's the end of April. It needs to stop snowing. That's a 4-letter word, snow. Did you know that? It's a 4-letter word, like a bad 4-letter word in my vocabulary. Anyway, bad thunderstorms. Lisa says bad thunderstorms. She's also in Massachusetts as well. Bad thunderstorms, not good. So hopefully you don't lose connection. But anyway, I want to get started and I want to talk to you about my newest pattern release. Twist and Shout, and here's the quilt that's behind me, and you can see it has 3 different size pinwheels, and I'm going to show you how to paper piece one of the pinwheels. It doesn't matter which one because they all kind of go together the same way because they are all the same shape. It's just going to be different colors. So that is the quilt, and that's what you see behind me. This is the new pattern. Now I have the pattern is available on my site currently as a PDF download. The booklets are en route. They've been printed. I'm just waiting for them to arrive. So once they arrive, I will upload the booklets to the website so they're available for purchase. But if you want to start it, you certainly can purchase the PDF download. Hello, Barbara. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Jan. Welcome in. Hi, Deb. So this is what we are going to work on today. I'm going to show you how to paper piece this. So if you would be so kind to share the video, and we're going to get started. So I'm going to switch camera views, and I want to show you. So this is how your PDF pattern will come. It's big. You'll be able to print it off on your 8.5 by 11-inch paper. You can do double-sided if you want, but otherwise it's going to be large like this. Now, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you one block. I'm not going to give you yardage amounts. I'm not going to give you measurements because that's all in the pattern, and I want to make sure that your I want to show you the technique is what I want to show you. So I'm going to put myself in the corner here so you can see me. But when you get your pattern, if you download it or if you order the booklet, one of the pages in here, we're going to make one little block, by the way. This is the block we're going to make. One of the pages has your paper foundations on it. So you will print these off, but now you're going to say, well, they're kind of small. So they are scaled down. Now, I will tell you, in the instructions it does say, enlarge the 1-inch scale, which is down here, and the 3 templates by 200%. Now that's also going to depend on your printer. So you're going to want to do a couple practice runs, try it out. On my printer, it was actually 175%, not 200. So some printers it's going to be 200. So when my graphics gal put these in here, she scaled them down by 100% or 200%. So you need to scale them up. But remember, this little square here needs to measure 1 inch to be if you want the same size quilt that's behind me. If you want something smaller or something bigger, then you're going to scale those up. So once you have this paper, you're going to print off. But what I first did, I'm going to show you what I did first, because a lot of you might, I took the paper and then I cut out, so here are, the big, the medium, and the small, and there's my 1-inch scale. So I put it on the printer. I put one of the blocks on the printer. I put the little block and the big block. And so here's the big block. I put it on the printer and scaled it up so you can see how much difference it is from what is in the pattern. Now I scaled it up. At first I scaled it to 200%. It was too big because this 1-inch scale was not 1 inch. It was larger than 1 inch. So now at the end, let me say, it's okay if you want to make the blocks larger, you can. You're just going to have to adjust your yardage amounts, because the yardage amounts that I give you are for this size here. So this has to measure 1 inch for the blocks to be the correct size for the correct yardage, if that makes sense to you. If you're smaller, then you're going to have plenty of the yardage. But if you go larger than that, you may be short on yardage. So it's going to be your preference, which is kind of nice because then you can make it whatever size you want. So this block here is this one, and you can see how much larger that is. Okay, and to make one full pinwheel block, you need to run off 4 copies because this is just a quarter of the block. Okay, so that's the larger size block. Then what I did, I'm going to show you this because this is important. I ended up, this is the block I'm going to show you today, this little guy. So what I did is I did the same thing and I ran off this, scaled it up so you can see how much larger it is. I scaled it up and then I printed off 4 of them. And basically, I just glued 4 on one piece. So then, because you have to print off so many to make the pattern, and now I have one sheet that has 4 blocks because I don't want to waste any paper, okay? So now I have the one sheet that has 4 blocks on it. Then what you're going to do when you're ready to create your foundations, let me just get this here, is I use Carol Doak's newsprint. Let me just get these out of the way. I use her newsprint paper because it goes into the printer. It's 8.5 by 11, but it's newsprint, so it's a lot thinner than copy paper. You can get all these supplies on my website. I have these available for you. It's Carol Doak's newsprint. You'll find it in the notions section on my website under paper piecing. Nice and thin, so it makes it easy. You print off everything on there. Makes it easy to rip away when you are done with your block. So then once I got my block scaled to the size that I wanted, and again, if you want to make it bigger, great. If you want to make it smaller, great. Then you're going to print it off on the newsprint, which is what I did here. Now, to make one block, we only need one of these sheets, but if you're going to make multiple blocks, you're going to make multiple sheets, and you can cut them all at the same time. One of the things that you can do is you can just put a staple through each layer and you can cross cut them at the same time. Oh, there goes my ruler. Hang on, people. Oh, My ruler, just my add a quarter ruler went flying. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut through all these because I know there's going to be a point where I'm going to use all of these and not just 4. I'm going to show you one block today, but I just take my rotary cutter and I'm going to cut about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the block. Now, obviously to stabilize these, like I said, you might want to put a staple through these so that you're not shifting. If you're constantly moving these, you're going to want to restack, and because you don't want to cut through the actual foundation sheet that you're going to use. So you're just going to cut that away, and then you're going to cut in between the blocks, and then you'll have your blocks ready to go. Okay, and I'll save these to cut later, these last bits to cut later for myself. But for the purpose of today, I already have my 4 cut. So, because we're just going to make one block, okay? And what we're going to do is, and if you're interested in a full class on paper piecing, I do have a full class on paper piecing, my Cactus and Blooms class, but this is a basic simple block that you're going to do, and it's the same technique whether it's a small or a larger block. And there's only 3 pieces of fabric on each piece. So you can see what I did with the templates is I've numbered them A1, A2, and A3. Those are your fabrics, because on the pattern you have, I do give you your fabrics here, and you've got fabrics A1, A2, etc. You've got your sections, or your fabrics are 15, so this would be my fabric 15 here, which is my background. But your sections are A1, A2, A3, and it does tell you, which fabrics go where. This one, A3, is always going to be your color print. Fabric 2 is always your black print in this case. And then A1 is always going to be my background. So that's on the pattern. Okay, so how we get started, super simple. And one of the things that I teach in all my paper piecing classes is what you do to one, you do to all. So we're going to chain piece this, okay, because that's important. It's a very efficient way to paper piece. So the very first piece that goes on is always going to be our number 1 piece, A1, section 1. Section 2 is going to be the second, and section 3 the third. It's going to go really quick. So we want to stack these up in that order. So this is my section 1, my section 2, and my section 3. So I'm going to turn these over because our fabric is going to be on this side, and the wrong side of the fabric goes to the wrong side of the paper. So if these are my batiks, my Mandala Magic collection, but if I had prints, I would want to make sure that the wrong side, my very first piece, is going to the wrong side of the fabric. So my very first piece, I'm putting my wrong side of my fabric to the wrong side of the paper foundation. And I'm using here this Elmer's Craft Bond. It's a repositionable glue stick, which I really, really, really like a lot. Versus I was using the Yoo-Hoo, and I still use the Yoo-Hoo, but this is nice. It's almost like a Post-it sticky, if that makes sense. So it doesn't leave much residue. So I'm going to put some glue on that A1 section. And you can very well see that A1 section. And this is basically half of a square. And I'm just going to place it on there like so. It's like down the diagonal of that square. So you can see, now I'm going to hold this up for you. See how it covers that section? So it comes a little bit over the edge here and a little bit over the edge here. I don't need it. So let me show you this. I do not need it like this, because if you have it like this fabric's nowhere on the block. I want it in farther because I want it to overlap that line, and I want it to overlap the edge just a little bit because I want all my fabric right on that section. So that's how I know where to place my fabrics. Okay, So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. What I do to one, I do to all of them, and I do it in the same exact manner. Okay? Oops. Is this two? Nope. Hang on. Place that a little wrong. There we go. And pardon me if I sound super tired, because I am. I did not sleep very well last night. My tummy has been bothering me the past few days, and I don't know why. Starting to feel a little bit better. I just don't feel quite right. You know, you ever have one of those days? So anyway, so I'm placing all the same fabric on the same section, securing it with a little bit of the glue, and they're all being placed in the same exact manner. And you notice how I'm turning these over now to the side where the writing is. So I'm done with that glue stick. And now what I'm going to do, the next thing I'm going to do is I need to move to line number 1. In paper piecing, everything is in numeric order. You're always going to go from line 1 to line 2, line 3, line 4, depending on how, many sections you have. And I know there's going to be questions, so hold questions until the end, so I don't have to scroll back to find them. So if you have questions, make sure you ask them at the end, and I will definitely answer those. So the next thing we're going to do on line 1, we're going to go ahead and we are going to put our piece of template plastic down. We're going to fold that line 1 back, and we're going to take our add a quarter ruler, and we're going to put it on the lip, the little lip. If you're not familiar with an add a quarter ruler, it has like a little lip here. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? It's a little lip which actually kind of secures itself right on that template plastic, so it won't move when you go to create that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I cut that fabric off, which I don't need now, and then I'm just going to set this aside. And this is again where I do what I do to one, I do to all of them. So each step I do to every single one before I move to another step. So I'm going to go ahead, place that add a quarter ruler on, trim that down, put this aside, and I'm not picking it up, turning it over, etc., because the more you handle your block, the more confusing it can get. And we want to be efficient in our piecing. We want to make sure that we're doing the same thing over and over again, because you'll get the blocks done a whole heck of a lot quicker and way more efficient. So you can see I'm just stacking these up because they don't want to stay down. They're popping up on me because it's just a tiny piece that I'm folding over. But I'm doing the same exact thing. Okay? Now, these blocks are ready to move on to my next step. My next step is I'm going to add this piece to it. This is my section 2. Now, these two pieces are facing right sides up. So if these were prints, this would be the right side. The wrong side is down on the bottom. Okay, so we want those right sides up because this is the right side of the fabric, because remember I put the wrong side of the fabric to the paper. So now I've created a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I am just going to line up the edge of this piece with the edge of here, but I also want it to cover the section that it needs to cover. So I'm going to line up those edges, and the section I wanted to cover, I can see it here. It needs to come out to the end of the block, and I'm sure you can see that dark little line there. But I'm going to just smooch it over just a teeny bit here, because it needs to come just past the 1/4 inch of the edge of the block, because that fabric, that black fabric, needs to come out to here. Okay, and it needs to come out to the edge of that block there, or the edge of the side of the block, the left side there. Just scooch it. I don't like where I have it there. So this is how you know how it's lined up. And I'm lining up that top seam. Okay. Then what I'm going to do to keep it in place before I take it to my sewing machine is I'm going to go ahead, and I love my fabric glue markers or glue pens. The one that I have here is Fons and Porter's. I have them on my website, and they take the place of pins. So I'm putting a little bit of glue in that inside the seam allowance, and now that is secure because I've checked where my placement is. It's secure. to take to the sewing machine. But remember, what I do to one, I do to all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, and I'm going to place it in the same manner. The first one I did acts as a prototype, if you will, for my second one. So I can see where I place this one. I can see I've got a little bit of black hanging over here, a little bit of black hanging over here. So if I place this one in the same manner, then I know I've got it placed properly. As long as I place that first one the same exact way. Put a little bit of glue in there and set it aside. And the same for the last two, I should say. Okay? And one more, and you can see how quickly this is going to go. And then we're going to switch camera views to the sewing machine so you can see what we're going to do next. Okay, so now these are all ready to hit the sewing machine. So let me switch my camera view so that you can see. Here we are at the sewing machine. Now I want to tell you a couple things here for the sewing machine. So you would use a 1/4 inch foot, and I don't know why it's not in focus there. It's focusing in on the foot itself. Anyway, normally I would use a 1/4 inch foot, but because I'm going to be sewing on a line, I don't need a 1/4 inch foot. I want a foot, and if you have a Viking, I'm using the A foot. It has a much wider opening so that I can see that line. The next thing you're going to want to do, I'm going to put this away so I don't lose it. So the next thing you'll want to do is set your stitch length to a 1.5 on here, because we do a 1.5. It gives it a nice strong seam allowance so that when you pull those papers away, you're not pulling your stitches out. I'm using a Microtex 7010 needle, and I'm using 50 weight Aurifil thread. So the next thing you will do, and if you want to follow along here, if you want to look here, I am lining it up with the line 1. So I'm going to basically sew from off of that line 1 to probably 2-3 stitches past line 1. So let me just take my scissors here as like a little stiletto. So I'm going to start it maybe about here, and then I'm going to end it maybe about here. Just past that line, I'm going to come through there. And so very, very simple. Okay, so here we go. Whoops, where's my pedal? There we go. Okay. And you're just going to put the pedal to the metal, and you're going to sew, and you're going to stop. I'm going to use my thread cutter, cut it. I'm going to put my next one in and do the same thing. What I do to one, I do to all. And you can see, I'll show you, I'll lift this one up. You can see how I started a little bit before the line there, and then a little bit after, okay? And then we're just going to put the last 2 in there. And the last one. And this is where the efficiency comes in. I mean, it's just so much more efficient to do it this way. All right, so now let's go back to our overhead view, and we're going to show you the next step. So now we have our 4 blocks all complete, the first 2 sections. And then what we're going to do, and I don't have my iron here, so I'm going to just finger press these, if you will. So I'm going to, if I had my iron here, I would iron these, but I don't. My iron's way over there and don't have enough room where I'm sitting. So I'm going to finger press these all, because that's the next step. So what I do to one, I do to all. So I'm finger pressing these open. And then we're going to add the next piece. And we add it in the same fashion as we added that second piece, the black piece. Okay, so I'm going to turn these back over, and now I'm going to fold on my line 2. Now, as you know, I sewed past that line too a bit. That's okay, because when you fold here, you're going to pull that back and it sticks to that paper, but that's okay. You make a nice crease in the paper and then you just pull the fabric away so it lays flat, okay? Then you're going to put your add a quarter ruler on and you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut the fabric away to create that 1/4 inch seam allowance and set it aside, and do the same thing to all the rest until you have all 4 done, and then we add the next piece. See how that fabric stays attached to the paper? It's okay. Pull it away, make it nice and crease it, and then go ahead, cut it, and set it aside with your other one. Same thing. Super simple, super easy. And the nice thing about doing them in succession and doing the same thing all at one time is that you remember it more than doing just one block at a time and going from the first section to the third section and then having to go back and repeat that to another block. If you do them all like this, you'll remember you'll remember how to do it a lot better, because the repetition is good to help you with your memory. See, this is how tired I am. Whew, sorry. Okay, so now we want to add this last piece to it, and we're going to do it in the same manner. Now, if you see, this piece covers this whole side of that block, right? But we want to add it right sides together, so we're going to add it down here. And as long as I can see some of that purple hanging over this edge here of the block, see that? How the purple's hanging over? I know that that purple's got the section that I need covered. So I've got it covered. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull back that top fabric, put a little glue in here to hold it in place, so I don't need to use any pins. It keeps it nice and flat. I'm going to set it up here on my sewing machine so it's all ready to go. And then we're just going to repeat that process. What I do to one, I do to all. Okay, so for those of you who have paper piece with me before, I hope this is a nice little refresher for you, because it never hurts to have a refresher, especially if you've haven't done a paper piecing project in a while and you're breaking it out and you're saying, oh boy, I don't remember what to do. So a refresher is always good. So I hope this is helpful to you. So I'm just repeating that same process. Okay. And then one more. And you know, these videos that I do, you can always watch them over again. They are on my YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. That is how it keeps me going. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll never miss a video either. I have lots and lots of tutorials, probably a lot that you have not seen. So it's Canton Village Quiltworks on YouTube, so you can watch it there. So let's go ahead and we're going to do the same process here. So in this, I'm going to actually start sewing from just off of here, this seam allowance, and I'm going to sew right through the end and come out that way. Same technique. I'm going to sew with my 1.5 stitch length, coming across that line too. When I get to the end, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put the next one in and do the same. And in a matter of, you know, what, 15 minutes or so, I've created 4 blocks to make one longer or one larger pinwheel block. You see in a minute what we do once we get to this point. I'm going to show you how to trim it up. Okay, So let me just show you here where you can see I sewed from past the line to past the line up here. Okay, now let's go to overhead view again. Now what we've done again is I've added all my pieces, so now I'm going to press it, and again I'm going to finger press here, but you can see it's all complete. And what you do to one, you do to all. You're going to finger press them all. I mean, I would press them with an iron, and I don't use I do not use a steam iron. I like to use a dry iron. So you can do that with all of them. But now I'd like to show you what you do once you're done here. You're going to trim down right on my foundation sheet. It is the outside dotted line. That's your seam allowance. So I'm going to trim, I'm going to be splitting that line, if you will. So I just lay a ruler on that, and I got to turn it this way so I can actually see what I'm doing. Just trimming those edges off to square up that block. And I love this block because it's a little extra added element to the regular pinwheel. You know, it's not just a regular half square triangle. So now once you're at this point here, you basically can take your papers off, and you just, they pull apart really easy because you use that 1.5 inch or 1.5 stitch length. And you can see this is the sticky part. This was the sticky, but there's no paper or glue on that fabric. So that's your block. Then you have 4 of them, and then what you're going to do to join those blocks is just like you would join a block normally. You're going to take your 4 blocks, you're going to take these 2, join them together, take these 2, join them together, and then what I did, and I'll show you the back of this, you press this seam this way, and then when I join the 2 together, I press the seam open here because I just think that middle lays down flatter. And I did the same thing on the quilt behind me. I pressed the seams opposing, and then when I joined the 2 together, I pressed that open. So this lays nice and flat, and you get a nice perfect center here. So that is how you make one of the pinwheel blocks. So that's the tutorial for today. I hope you enjoy that tutorial. You can actually go back. I will be uploading this to my YouTube channel, and it will also live on my Facebook page too, which is where you are now. So you can also find it there. But I would like to take questions. If you have questions about it, please type them in the comments. I see a question here from Deb. Can you hold the glue stick close to the camera so we can see the label, please? So the glue stick, let me do the overhead shot. Let me just take, hang on. So this I have available on my website. So you can get these on my website, Deb. It's a Elmer's Craft Bond repositionable glue stick. I do have them available, so if you're searching for them, they are there. I do sell them. So that is, if that's one you're looking for. If this is the one you're looking for, then it's kind of worn off. But these are my, and I have these available on the website. They're Fons and Porter glue markers or glue pens. So those are available on the website. If that makes any sense. I hope that answered your question, Deb. Let me scroll back. You're welcome. Let me scroll back and see if there's any other questions. If you have some questions, please put them. But I know there's a little bit of a delay, so type your questions in, and I'm just scrolling back to see. Okay, no questions in the back. Okay, so we've got Madeline. Let's see what Madeline says. It would be great if you could have an actual piece sheet instead of us having to enlarge. It would. It can be a problem sometimes. It would, but unfortunately, the costs that go into doing it would drive up the costs of the pattern. Otherwise, I would be able to do that. It's really, It's not as easy as you think, Madeline. It's definitely a it's one of those 6 in one, half dozen in the other. Typically, it tends to be much more costly for me to do that. So I try to keep my costs down and keep the pattern at a reasonable price for you. Otherwise, I'd have to up the price of the pattern because I'm putting inserts in. And I have done that before, and it costs so much more for me to get them printed that way. So I apologize for that. I know it's a little more work for you on your end, but I'm trying to save you money as well as me. So I hope that answers your question, but I get it for sure. Let's see, Kyra says, what color thread do you paper piece with? Okay, so the color that I'm using today, well, and I typically use the, actually the same color pretty much with all my piecing, not just paper piecing. However, there is a caveat. So I'm using, this is not it. I'll take it out of here and I'll show you. This is the one that I'm using today, and I use this for all my piecing. It's Aurifil 2600. It's their Dove Gray. So let me put the overhead shot on so you can see. So can you see that? It's Aurifil 2600, and I believe I also have these available on my site as well. But it's this light kind of gray, and I think it works very well. It hides pretty much in all the fabrics. Now, I will tell you that I do alternate between this and there's like I don't know if I have it in my drawer here. Let me see. Yeah, this one. It's like a kind of a cream color. So I alternate, between those two, but I typically tend to use this one the most. But there is, like I said, there is one exception to my rule. And the one exception is if I am doing a quilt that has mostly black in it, and I'm talking mostly black, I will tend to go to a black thread or a darker gray than this, because depending on what you're doing, those threads can show through on the black. I don't know if that makes any sense. Let's see. Patty loves Aurifil thread. Laura says she uses it also, loves it. Yeah, they're great. 50 weight thread for any kind of piecing is fabulous. So that's basically how I do it. I don't typically like to change out colors of thread except for quilting. Like when I'm, doing the actual quilting on the quilt, I'll change the color of the thread to something that might match. Like, this is really pretty, right? Right? That would go really well with this, I think. Right? Isn't that pretty? So these are some, actually these colors here are from my Blinded by Science Aurifil thread collection, which I have available on my website. Oh, and I have green too. Here's green. That would go nicely with that too. So, and these are actually all 50 weight. So the orange cones are 50 weight threads. But I would choose something depending on what I'm doing. I might choose one of these colors to quilt with. Oh, and here's a multi that is in the collection. Isn't that pretty? That's from my Blinded by Science collection. And it has some of these beautiful, beautiful, look at that. It's got pinks and purples and grays and the cream colors. Anyway, so those are available on my website under the threads. Thank you, Kyra. Thank you. Thank you. So are there any more questions? So while I'm waiting to see if there's any straggling questions, a couple other things I wanted to tell you about. So again, I'll repeat. So this is available. The link is in the description. It is available as a PDF download right now. The patterns, the booklet style patterns, are coming. They are shipped. So they should be here within probably a week or two. And as soon as they are here, I'll upload those to the website so they will be available to you. The quilt itself is 56 by 56, so it's a nice wall-size quilt. You can watch the replay again so that you'll know how to do the paper piecing if you need a refresher. If you want a full-on class, you can take my class, Paper Piecing the Cactus and Blooms Quilts, on my teachable.com site, and I can put the link in the description as well. I'm not sure if I did put the link there or not. So those are a few things. Kyra, this collection needs to come live in your studio. I've got plenty. Thank you, Deb. I can't wait for you to get your pattern. Awesome. So if you liked the tutorial, please share it. Please share the video. I would love for other people to see it. And I'm so glad you all popped in to spend your Wednesday afternoon with me. I will be back in 2 weeks from today with another tutorial for you. After this, I am actually going to go lay down because I am super tired from not sleeping well last night. So I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy quilting for the next 2 weeks while I am not here. While I'm here, I'll be binding a quilt. I'm binding my Coral Reef Technique of the Month. So anyway, you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you for joining in. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.